was a cold, quiet night in Seattle. Ethan, an Uber driver hustling on late-night shifts, leaned back in his driver's seat, parked near the Space Needle. He scrolled through his phone while his favorite playlist hummed softly in the background. The roads had been unusually dead tonight. Man, it's almost midnight and nothing's coming in. Guess I'll call it a night soon, Ethan muttered. Ping. A ride request lit up his screen. The name, Laura Williams. Lakeview Grove? Ethan squinted at the location. Why is it always the creepy spots? Yet work was work. With a resigned sigh, he accepted the trip, threw the car in gear, and headed into the misty darkness. Lakeview Grove wasn't the kind of place you'd visit at night unless you had to. Tucked away on the outskirts of the city, the road was surrounded by towering trees and a suffocating silence. As Ethan neared the destination, the streets faded into gravel roads, and his headlights revealed a dilapidated house surrounded by fog. Glancing at his phone, Ethan confirmed the pickup location. He tapped the call button, but the call went straight to voicemail. Great, he groaned. Suddenly, the house's front door creaked open. Out stepped a young woman in a long black dress. She moved slowly, almost floating, as she approached the car. Ethan rolled down the window. Hey, are you Laura? The woman barely nodded. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow, and she didn't seem normal. Okay. I'll need the OTP to start the ride, Ethan added, holding up his phone. Before she could speak, the app dinged. Ride started. What was strange, though, was that Ethan never entered the code. Suppressing a shiver, Ethan unlocked the door. Laura silently slid into the back seat. The first few minutes of the ride were weird. Laura didn't say a word. Ethan decided to break the tension. So Laura, heading somewhere special this late? She didn't answer. Instead, she stared out the window, her expression blank. Ethan glanced at her in the rearview mirror, his unease growing. Something about her was deeply unsettling. As they neared an intersection, a black cat suddenly darted in front of the car. Ethan slammed on the brakes, gripping the wheel tightly. Jesus, a black cat of all things? Ethan muttered under his breath, chuckling nervously. Bad luck, huh? He glanced back at Laura, expecting some reaction, a smirk, an eye roll, anything. But she just sat there, her face expressionless, her eyes trained on the window. Ethan turned up the radio to cut the awkward silence. It crackled to life but quickly descended into static. Then, the static turned into faint whispers. What the hell? Ethan muttered, tapping the dashboard. The whispers grew louder, but when he turned the radio off, they stopped instantly. He glanced back at Laura in the mirror. This time, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk curled on her lips. Before long, Ethan spotted a gas station and noticed his tank was nearly empty. Hey Laura, quick fuel stop. Just a couple of minutes, all right? She didn't respond. Ethan sighed and pulled in at the nearly deserted gas station. The fluorescent lights flickered. A lone attendant stood behind the counter, barely awake. Ethan handed cash to the man. Fill it up. I'll be right back. Stepping outside for some air, Ethan lit a cigarette and leaned against the car, letting the night's chill settle into his bones. He casually glanced toward the back seat and froze. Laura wasn't there anymore. He stubbed out his cigarette and ran toward the car, yanking open the door. Laura? She wasn't inside. Where did she go? He muttered, checking the dark road. Then the car door slammed shut. Spinning around, Ethan's blood ran cold. Laura was back, sitting silently where she'd been all along, staring forward as if she'd never moved. The GPS finally announced the destination, a dirt road leading into the woods. Ethan slowed the car, his heart pounding. This is it? He asked cautiously. Laura nodded once, her movements stiff and unnatural. She opened the door and stepped out, walking into the foggy woods. Ethan sighed in relief, but as he turned the car around to leave, he stole one last glance in the rearview mirror. Laura was standing on the road, unmoving, her face illuminated by his taillights. Nope, I'm out, Ethan muttered, speeding away. Ethan was finally back on familiar streets, the city lights calming his nerves. What a night, he muttered, turning the radio back on. But halfway down the road, he glanced in the rearview mirror and froze. Laura was sitting in the back seat again, her hollow eyes staring into his soul. You left me, she whispered, her voice cold enough to freeze his blood. The car swerved as Ethan slammed the brakes. Whipping around to confront her, he found the back seat empty. yet her voice echoed in his ears. "You left me before I could finish my story. Now I'll never leave you." If Ethan's story sent chills down your spine, you're not alone. Some stories leave haunting impressions, ones that stick with you long after they end. At Dark Demon Tales, we bring you suspense-filled nightmares like this every week. Subscribe, hit the like button, and click the bell so the darkness doesn't catch you off guard. After all, who knows who might be sitting in your back seat tonight? Good night, if you can sleep.